But this 101 is going to be slightly different from the other 101s that we've done. Because you know me, I despise spoilers to a fault sometimes. And with all the 101s that we have done, I've tried to go in as blind as possible because I want to see if I like how I interpret the things that they're putting out visually and audibly, things like that. But this one's going to be a little bit different because generally with the other artists, they have to count on the directors of photography, the directors, the editors, to essentially translate the artist's ideas into a visual execution. So there's a translation that happens. Now, me being on that technical side of things, I want to see if I can essentially translate the translation of what I think the artist was originally trying to say. That's what I like to do. The difference with DPR Ian, though, is that Ian does everything. Writes, acts, edits, directs, all on top of the musical stuff. So this guy literally is a one-man show. Like, he's incredible. Now, that being said, because he does a lot of that, if not all of that for himself, I want to understand some initial context of him before kicking things off, because I want to see how he is audibly and visually representing parts of his story. I hope that makes sense. I know it seems like a lot to throw at you, but that's my goal. So Ian essentially is translating his own message, and I just want to see how he goes about that. Okay? Let's see. And to kick things off with some context here, I'm going to read a comment that one of the mods found that they think could potentially be helpful. So this will give me some context. What I love about this comment is they actually put sources, interviews, inside the mind of, lives, all kinds of stuff. So the fact that they put sources, I think this is potentially accurate. Okay, so here we go. In addition to bipolar disorder, he also disclosed at the end of 2023 that he has DID, dissociative identity disorder. Mito, or is it Mito? Mito and Mr. Insanity aren't just characters that he created. They're real people that have a mind of their own called alters, short for alternate state of consciousness, and that he coexists with. In DID, there's more than one person living in the same body with different memories, voice tone, body language, etc. DID stems from severe and or repeated early childhood trauma, typically before 6 years old. Oh, it is Mito? Thank you very much. And the child fragments the mind so the new person can deal with the trauma and not the child. Otherwise, it would be unbearable. That way, the child's mind can't fully integrate into one whole identity, and instead it becomes multiple. Someone with DID only knows this mechanism to cope with trauma, to dissociate and become someone else. So they unconsciously switch between identities as they are exposed to stress, and also more identities can be formed throughout their lives. What Ian calls the other side is actually his consciousness, and that's why it's the place where Mr. Insanity and Mito exist. Mito actually isn't the embodiment of depression or low mood swings. He's Ian's protector alter. So Mito is the protector, okay? Since he was created by the mind to deal with any trauma and to be the one who remembers them, so Ian can forget it. Ian is the prominent identity, the one who stays the longest in the body, called the host. In very stressful situations, Ian blacks out and Mito takes control of the mind in order to protect him. He's the one fronting. Now, P.S., there's also confront or co-fronting, meaning more than one alter in control at the same time. Ian then will come back hours, days, or even weeks later. The longest has been a month, not remembering anything that was said or done. Basically, his life has been lived and he doesn't know how. Ian said that before he didn't black out when he turned into Mr. Insanity and just went into a bipolar manic high. However, when he was doing the Dear Insanity album, he thought he was present throughout the whole process until he found out he wasn't. Another thing is that Ian says that he can't act. Sometimes he knows that he's going to switch, even if he can't predict when it's going to happen, and that's when he schedules his music video filming. His songs can sometimes be a mix of genres and all over the place in a good way, because sometimes he would make part of the song, then it happens that there's a switch, and then another identity will finish the song. Mido usually has a more orchestral sound with strings, and that's why at the beginning of Skins, there's the harp sound, for example. Mr. Insanity is usually more electronic or pop and colorful. That's why he made Don't Go Insane, So I Danced, and Peanut Butter and Tears. The difference in voice tone also exists, and Mido, for example, can hit an octave that Ian can't. Sometimes Ian feels insecure about his own music, thinking, it would be way better if Mido did this. Zombie Pop, for example, is a song that he did alone with no third-party influence from Mido or Mr. Insanity. Zombie Pop, remember that. After starting the whole artistry, he said that it has been hectic because it created an ego for his alters, especially Mido. Mido and Mr. Insanity are often fighting, and sometimes Ian doesn't know who wants to keep going with his work. Wow. I have to say, that is a lot. I will say I am extremely glad that I started with this to have this level of context. I'm going to assume that what they're putting in here, due to the sources, is accurate, okay? And I will also give a disclaimer that when it comes to bipolar, when it comes to DID, I do not have really much experience with this. Okay, so like, and I've had relatives that have, experienced bipolar, or I had an aunt that I was close with growing up, that was schizophrenic, but I think it was schizophrenia before it started to be broken down to schizoaffective, or there's different. Yeah, I'm not an expert when it comes to this stuff. Okay, my best bet here, now that I kind of understand, there's Ian, Mido, Mr. Insanity seem to be the three key players. Ian is not his real name, right? Isn't it Christian? Christian Yu. Thank you very much. So when he first came on the scene, the first video I have is an official teaser for So Beautiful. And I don't have an exact date, but let's see. So this is right. This should be the first video. This is first solo single. So this is the teaser for So Beautiful. You're telling me this is the first time outside of C Clown that he showed up? Okay. Before I change again, remind me of the time when I still remembered. See, now, because I've seen a couple videos already and I kind of understand at least some of his style, I suppose, this feels very Ian. Okay, like it's exactly kind of what I expected. But I would have to think, though, as a debut, this teaser pops out. People that don't necessarily know some of the context might kind of go, huh, what's that about? And it probably raises some eyebrows, I'm sure. That quote in the beginning. Before I change again, remind me of the time when I still remembered. See, and this is the reason that I wanted to get into him, because he is deep, because he has so many layers. It's so meta in so many ways that this is the kind of stuff that I really, really feed on. Does anybody know, was he already at this point when he did this, was he already doing the editing and the directing and all that stuff, or did that come later? He was. Okay. That's what I was hoping. Because now the reason, like I said, I want to start with this, the context of kind of knowing some of his story, is because I want to see how he's demonstrating some of these things. So for example, okay, if you listen to this beginning, when there's like a record playing, well, it's I can't say it's a record, but it kind of has a warp to it. If you listen to the music specifically, it's kind of warped. There's also this almost underwater presence. It's a heavy presence. And I say underwater because it sounds like underwater, but then we also get this flash of a visual, which is only two frames underwater. But if you notice the music that's playing, okay, there's a couple more actually, 4 frames, I think. It's a very heavy presence. If you've ever jumped into the ocean and gone down deep, you can feel the presence of the ocean. There's a depth to it. Bradley, you better get your shit together, bro. I already told you once. I'm not going to tell you again. Do you feel that heaviness? The warp and the heaviness. Wow. Damn, that's heavy. Now, who was it? Who just said that? Somebody just said, oh, there it is. Water is a symbol associated with Mito. That is good to know. Now, I can't necessarily say yet that every time there's hints of water involved, it's their way of telling us that Mito is the main character. I can't say that yet. Lightning is too. Lightning and thunder also is. And black and white? Okay. So Mido is water, thunder and lightning, black and white, and red. Mido's colors are black, white, and red. Interesting. The visual look for Mido is he wears an eye ring, and one of his eyes are white. Look out for that. Wow. Whew. He has one white eye. Huh. I'll tell you, so this level already, getting into Mido, and I have to literally make a conscious decision here to not continue to say character. Like, I'm looking at it from a director's standpoint, so I say characters. But if Mido is a representation, or if Mido is the altar, right? Like, that's different than a character. Especially when Ian goes out of his way to say, I can't act. Okay, like, you have to understand that what you're seeing here is real. So I feel like if I continue to say characters, that's not, you know, it's not accurate. So altar. Water, thunder, and lightning, black, white, and red, has one white eye. Persona, yeah, I guess that works. Okay. They are fictionalized versions of Mido and Insanity in the narrative music videos, though. Good point. Yeah, Persona. There we go. Okay. So Christian does talk about Mido and Insanity as characters, too, because he creates these videos to characterize them. Okay, that's incredibly helpful. Okay, good. So next up, we have the actual video of So Beautiful. So that was the teaser that we just watched. Ooh, this is, we got some deep stuff here. Listen closely.
Before I change again, remind me of the time when I still remembered. I fulfill a comment.
You hear that voice change? Okay, so we're seeing thunder and lightning. We're seeing water. Now, my first question, and you don't have to answer this because I'm going to figure it out, but what I'm thinking already is are we seeing Mido, or are we seeing Ian after Mido? Got it. Okay, so black and white is Mido. Color is Ian. We just watched a change. We just watched a shift. Wow. That's really helpful. You know what my first thought is? And I already love this. This to me, and it's so perfect for him. When I read that initial comment and how seemingly complex and overwhelming that is for us to read and then try to understand, can you imagine being him and having to live with this? This is seemingly the perfect way to build some form of structure to all that. Even for the sake of understanding, and coping, it does kind of put a structure to it. And I really, really love that.
I've got my sight for you. I don't mean to let it through. I thought it through. Now come on, you know I just get confused.
Wow.
Love story. I love it when the skies can't see. I left a message encased in me. So bye-bye, flawless ending. So
Oh, so we're actually seeing the white eye you talked about right there. See it? We've got the white eye. We've got water. We've got black and white. So we're seeing Mito right here. God, this is so helpful. I was really hoping when you threw all that at me for Mito, and now we understand black and white is Mito, and then color is so far Ian. If it stays kind of that compartmentalized within that structure, it's going to be so much easier to understand what he's trying to convey through the story.
beautiful. You're so
Oh, that's the ring you were talking about. Got it. Thank you.
Let's take a trip down a dark place, baby. Look for me now, I'm not that crazy. Let's talk about what makes you happy, 'cause I know I'm calling for you. Come get your funky love story.
Wow.
I love it when the skies can't see. I left a message encased in me. So bye-bye, flawless ending. So beautiful. You're so my love is starting color. My heart is looking the other way. My love is starting color. My heart is looking the other way.
Wow.
Come get your funky love story. I love it when the skies can't see. I left a message encased in me. So bye-bye, flawless ending. Come get your funky love story. I love it when the skies can't.
I want to point something out to you here. He's doing something really interesting with the editing, okay? If you watch these scenes here with Mito, you're going to see what looks like, it's like old film. It's an overlay, and you see burn marks, you see scratches and all kinds of dust and stuff on the screen.
Story.
See these? See when I go frame by frame? See this thing down here? See this right here? You see these divots and specks right here? There's another one. This is all, in my opinion, this is symbolic of a couple things. One, it does add a layer, it adds another layer of visual chaos to what's already happening on the screen. So great, but that's like a bonus. To me, interpretively, I take that as this is another way to show that this is, one, a bit of a dramatization, okay? And whoever it was in chat that said Mito, what was it? Ian said Mito is a bit theatrical, is a bit dramatic and kind of emo. Hilarious. I think this is another way to show that what you're seeing here is a dramatization. It happens, but you're watching it on the screen. And also that I'm going to make a huge leap here. This is just a theory, and I doubt that it's right, but I'm going to say it because if I nail it, score. I wonder if also Ian seeing Mito on the screen, if these film, what's the word? this like old film filter is almost also a level of security or a bit of a barrier to help him understand that there's a disconnection, right? I'm seeing him on camera, but it's just a movie. Does that make sense? It's like when your kid's terrified of what's on the screen, you're like, hey, it's just a TV show. You're trying to help them disconnect from what they're seeing, even though it's completely their whole world. Because you notice when this comes up, it's gone. Now you see that? We got a little bit of thunder and lightning. We've got the wet road, and we're still getting little flashes of that film overlay. Wow. Oh shit, what? Wow, that is a to be continued if I have ever seen one. Because here's a question for you. Who picked up the gun? I know the answer. You know the answer, right? We just came from right here. He's heading home. He gets home. We have another change. And now we've got Mito picking up the gun. This is an Italian pistol, by the way, called a Beretta 92. Ooh, here's a level of detail for you that is good. First of all, this silver thing you see right here, that is the magazine. Some people call it a clip. That's what holds the bullets. So the gun is loaded, or at least it's showing that. Sometimes they forget that, and you can tell it's not loaded. But also, this is a huge bit of detail. You can barely see it, but this right here is the safety lever. The direction that it's pointing right now points forward, which means the safety is off. So if the trigger is pressed, and yes, this is the one I talked about in the other video that we saw. This one has the 9.9 to 16.1 pound factory trigger pull. Heavy trigger, but if you intend on pulling it, you can pull it. The safety is off. There is just complete disregard in this shot. So when Mito picks up the gun and you're waiting to know what happens, there's kind of no level of safety left. That's a really, really good way to put this. Wow. I'm just checking some deets here. Who is that? Alessia. Last scene does not have the freckles, so did he break the barrier? Alessia, my theory is that that barrier is more for Ian when he's watching these videos. That's kind of my theory. I don't know if it's right or not, but it would make sense to me. It's almost a level of protection for him when he watches this, so that him watching his own videos or even editing these videos doesn't maybe trigger it again. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a weird thing to say, because I don't know if switches can be triggered outside of stress, but maybe seeing a visualization of Mito can be enough stress to trigger it. I don't know. I mean, it's really, yeah. Okay. Wow. This is really, really wild stuff. I really love this. I love the fact that it's kind of compartmentalized in a way that we can understand. So once we have the basic fundamentals of his, it's almost like the key to, or the legend, you know, you understand on a map, red means this, yellow means this. And then you look at the map and you understand everything because you have the key. So if we have the key so far of Mito is water, thunder, and lightning, black and white and red. He's got the one white eye, the giant ring with the eyeball on it. Now we can understand at least this piece of the story. If the structure remains, and I anticipate that it will, we can also anticipate that there are going to be moments when the structure does not remain and all hell breaks loose. But it'll be very specific and for a very strategic purpose. This is some serious art, and it's serious not just because it's really, really layered and brilliantly done so far, but because it's so personal and so powerful to not only him, but people who might also be in some even quasi-similar boat.